What's up, Lost Boys? We are here at week 2 of our fantasy summary and preview. So, last week was week 1, some pretty good matchups. This week was a complete flip around considering every team that lost in week 1 won and week 2, which is pretty crazy. So, you look at our standings right now, you have a 2 and 0 at the top, an 0 and 2 at the bottom, and then 8 people log jammed at 1 and 1, which shows you what's going to be at the end of the season. Points are king. We'll talk about that a little bit throughout this video. But yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy week 2. Everyone's pretty much tied at week 1. Let's get into the matchups. We're going to start with our game of the week. It was the only matchup of 1 and 0 teams. It was Josh versus Tim. And Josh sent Tim to the ICU pretty quickly. It started out on Thursday Night Football with Cousins and Jefferson having a decent start. A.J. Brown coming out pretty slow, and it didn't get any better for Tim. Tua was going against Patriots D. Bill Belichick held him in check compared to the week 1. Tim got some good stuff from Lockett throughout the day. Kelsey came back, but at the end of the day, it just didn't matter. Josh's team overall, every guy seems capable of getting 15-ish points every single week, and that stuff adds up. Um, James Cook had a lot of yards. Gibbs still isn't getting rolling, but in general, he's has his 3 studs: Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra. But the big thing for Josh is Nico Collins seems to be thriving so far this year. We don't know how long it's going to last, but he did really well in week 1 and then did even better in week 2. So that helped push him over Tim this week. We'll see how Tim can improve going into week 2. Second matchup, we're going to go Denny and Cass. Both of these guys really needed a win. Denny was the only one that lost in week 1 that did not win because he played against Cass, and Cass beat him pretty good. Denny's team's in a really interesting spot, in my opinion. I was looking it over. He has all these injuries. He had Rodgers, obviously. He has Dalvin Cook. He has Garrett Wilson. He invested so heavily in the Jets, which is not a good thing. But his team wasn't bad this week, and he had some really bad performances. He still put up almost 130 points. I mean, he got negative points from Dalvin Cook. George Kittle hasn't really given him anything. Kenneth Walker got a couple TDs, but really hasn't looked very good. He has to look for a solution for Najee. Najee just isn't it this year. We saw it last night. But he still did well. Lamar had him 22 points and really hasn't scored many touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown for the whole year. He put Baker in instead to replace an injured Aaron Rodgers. Baker ends up getting him 18, so Baker might be a decent replacement. Who would have thought that? Chase hasn't gotten going yet. Yes, Denny is 0-2. My point being is he still has a lot of talent. I really like Denny's team after the draft. If he can get the Dalvin Cook situation figured out, if he can fix his flex and maybe get a little bit more out of Najee, his team could be dangerous. Cass on the flip side, Cass's team is always talented every single year. He has Herbert doing well. Love got him 20 points. Didn't even look very good and still got him 20 points. But in general, Cass's team was similar to Josh's team. No one exploded, but everyone did fairly well, 15 to 20-ish points. Horse Turd Hair ended up getting him 17. Hey, Drake London finally saw the ball. That helped Cass out. And, of course, his Christian McCaffrey first-round pick, 21 points. I mean, I saw that the guy played 100% of the snaps. Like, if Christian McCaffrey is going to play 100% of the snaps and not get injured, he's going to be the fantasy football #1 overall player this year. So Cass is going to ride that. His flex is a little bit differently. Rashid Shaheed, I mean, he did okay. He had 1 long bomb last night, but his big one's Alexander Madison. He could have been a boomer bust going into the year, finally taking over full-time from Dalvin Cook. It just seems like the Vikings can't run the ball at all. So Cass might need to make some moves for that second flex spot, but overall, Cass takes the dub and is looking pretty good going into week 3. Third game, we're going to go Justin versus Pat. And Justin righted the ship, beat Pat's ass this week by over 40 points. But Pat kind of lost the battle and may have lost the war this week with the Nick Chubb injuries. Gruesome. He's out for the year. They've already announced it. Jace already has Jerome Ford, so he can't pick up his backup. It's kind of a rough week for Patty. His team is very talented. He has maybe the best player in fantasy in Tyreek Hill. But saying that, without Nick Chubb, Kyle Pitts hasn't gotten rolling yet. Jahan Dotson, I was super high on. I was bummed Pat took him when he did. He hasn't gotten much rolling yet. And Miles Sanders, once again, another guy that I was high on. Carolina just doesn't seem to have an offense this year. So all these guys that Pat may have counted on to be late round sleepers aren't performing with the way he needs them to be. His team's still good. He has a high floor with Lawrence. Geno seems to be doing pretty well every week. Obviously, I spoke about Tyreek Hill. Devontae Smith is great. So he has these 5 guys at the top. Flowers has been a great pickup for him. But you have the running back for the Jags. You have the quarterback for the Jags, and like last week, the Chiefs shut him down. That's going to hurt him. On the flip side, Justin, got right. I figured he would. His QBs are too good not to do much. Allen didn't have a monster game. He had about 24 points, which is really good for fantasy. Burrow had 15, but it was a terrible 15, and Burrow re-injured his calf, so Justin may have to think about starting Derek Carr. Higgins got both of his touchdowns, so he got him back. He went from 0 points last week to 25 this week. Justin's team, Connor's looking really good. Somehow on Arizona, he's the only one that's looking good. And TJ Hawkinson started his week out great, evened out Pat's Devontae Smith on that Thursday night game. Justin takes the win, gets close to 155 points. Justin's team, like I said, if he can get his flex spots, he had 155 points, he had 0 from his flex. And he missed out on about 20-something points from Mostert on his bench. Now that points could come into play. Like I said, with everyone tied, points are king. Justin needs every single point, especially because he performed so bad week 1. I'm sure he'll make adjustments. Justin's team's looking good going into week 3. Fourth game, Cal versus Llama. It actually ended up being closer than I thought. I thought Llama was going to run away with it. Barkley ended up getting some good garbage time, 24 points. Russell Wilson had the Hail Mary, ended up hurting Cal as well. Looking back on it now with how things unfolded last night, if Barkley didn't get that last touchdown at the end of the game and Russell Wilson didn't get the Hail Mary, Cal wins this game, which is crazy to think. Joshua Kelly took a dump. He doesn't look like the solid replacement for Eckler, which is going to hurt Ryan. And more importantly for Ryan, Barkley's going to be out about 3 weeks, which is rough for him because he was doing really well. Freiermuth got Ryan 7 yards. He did get a couple TDs or a decent game from Gabe Davis this week. But the bigger question with Ryan is Jonathan Taylor's still on IR, and who knows what he's going to do when he comes back. Now Saquon Barkley is out for at least 3 weeks. And Justin Fields is awful. Maybe the worst quarterback in the league. He's not even getting rushing yards now. He's getting his 14 points, 13 points, but you drafted this guy to get, 20 plus points every single week. He's terrible, and it's affecting his DJ Moore stock as well. So Ryan's team, Ryan's really good. I'm sure he's going to, find some ways to do it, but he's in a rough spot right now. He's still got the win though. Cal on the other side, he has Mahomes. Mahomes is going to get rolling. I think he will. He hasn't been Mahomesian yet this year. The bigger question is Cal and Watson. Cal had a shot last night. He only needed 24 points, which is not a lot. 24, 25 points from Watson to win the week. It's a good amount, but it could happen. Deshaun Watson used to get that all the time. That Deshaun Watson is gone. He left it at the massage parlors. This Deshaun Watson's terrible. He's overthrowing guys. He's turning the ball over. He's grabbing face masks. He's shoving referees, super kicking referees. So he's bad. Cal might need to think about maybe putting him on the bench and replacing him with another guy. Who knows? Pickens finally had a good night last night, which is good. Had to be promising for Cal. But the little worrisome part for Cal, he had 0. Cal easily could have won this week. He had Darnell Mooney. I mentioned how terrible Justin Fields was. You can't start Darnell Mooney, Cal. You can't. You can barely start any Bears right now. They're that bad, and they play the Chiefs this week. So that's up to you, brother. He'll have to figure out his flex. Rashard White had a good week, and which is frustrating. Cal had a good week from Pickens, a good week from Rashard White, and he still lost. That's got to be frustrating. But either way, Ryan gets the win. Cal gets lost. They're both 1-1, but Cal's team's a little healthier going forward. We'll see how he does. And finally, the last game was the biggest ass whipping of the week. Romanowski and Jace. Jace ended up doing good. He had 144 points. His guys did pretty well, but he got 22 from Jerome Ford. Who would have thought that? Jace ends up starting the week. Cam Akers, Jerome Ford. Cam Akers is a healthy scratch, gets him 0, and Jerome Ford was a backup. I'm like, what are we doing here? Then Cam Akers, like I said, gets him 0. Jerome Ford gets 22 points because of the unfortunate incident with Nick Chubb, and Jace wakes up today falling himself into a top 12 fantasy football running back position with Jerome Ford. So he lost last night, but he's 1-1 with a better spot than he was the night before. So it's a really odd situation. Jace's team is very wide receiver heavy, so anything he can get from the running back position is going to help him. I mean, Diggs, Olave, Ridley, Hopkins, Marquise Brown. His guys did pretty good. Hurts got back on track with 25 points. He has the best fantasy defense in the league in Dallas, which is an underrated thing. He's getting them 15 to 20 points every single week, crushing the opponent's defense. So Jace did well. Didn't touch Roman, though. He still almost lost by 60 points. Roman had one of those weeks. Broke 200 points, which is the benchmark for an incredible week. Richardson, if he didn't get injured in the first half, Richardson probably would have went for 30 points, and Matt might have set the record for most points ever in a league. I mean, he had 30 from Daniel Jones, garbage. Mike Evans, 26. Keenan Allen somehow gets 27. Bijan gets close to 20. Josh Reynolds gets you 21. Puka Nacua, who is Kupp's replacement, because Matt drafted Kupp, he's been on his bench. Matt was going to start rough. Puka Nacua is basically Kupp 2.0. We'll see what happens when Kupp's back, but Matt's not missing a beat with Kupp on his bench. So Matt's team's looking really, really strong right now. He has a lot of guys on his bench too. He's very deep. He has Kyren Williams on his bench, a couple other solid guys. So Matt's team's looking incredibly deep and strong going forward, especially if Anthony Richardson, if this concussion really is anything, which I think they said it wasn't really a concussion. He'll probably play this week. We'll see. But anyway, I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to get better. He has tons of skill position guys. Mike Evans is better than we thought. Bijan, if they actually start to feed Bijan, game over. The guy is right up there with Christian McCaffrey as the best running back in fantasy. So we'll see. His second flex spot, he's probably going to throw Kyren Williams in there if I was him. He's loading a lot of investment in the Rams, which we'll see if that bites him in the ass. But in general, Matt's team is looking good. So that's the matchups from this past week, boys. We're going to do a quick look ahead at week 3. Like I said, most people are 1-1. So every game, especially this early in the season, matters. We'll start with Josh versus Pat. This was supposed to be my matchup of the week, but once the Chubb injury happened, now it still may be an incredible matchup, but I'm going to go with Josh on this one. His team is healthy, knock on wood, and they're just a good team. Pat's team losing Chubb. He has some good matchups. Jacksonville's playing Houston, so he should get some good points there. But I think it's closer than the projections are going to allow it. But I think Josh squeaks it away. Second matchup, we're going to go with Tim versus Cal. Both teams I like in this situation. I'm going to go Cal in this spot. I think his team left last week a little healthier than others. Tua is going to get back on track. Purdy's going to do well. He's playing Thursday night against the Giants, which the Giants' D has been atrocious. So I think Cal starts the week off really, really well. I'm sorry, I think Tim, these are all Tim's guys. I think Tim starts the week off really, really well with Purdy. I think Breece Hall, because he mentioned some stuff. Kelsey does good. We'll see about all that different stuff. But I think Cal's team, Pierce gets back to do anything. I think Pollard's going against Arizona. I think Pollard has at least 25 points. And I mentioned Mahomes. He's been subpar. He's going against the Bears. They're at Arrowhead. I think Mahomes gives him a vintage Mahomes performance, which any other matchup, I think I would favor Tim because of Kelsey. But if Kelsey does well, that means Mahomes does well. So I think it counteracts. I think Cal sneaks out a victory in this one and helps him go to 2-1. Next one we're going to go with is going to be Denny versus Justin. Big matchup here, because Justin comes out with a win last week. Denny has to get a win. It's almost impossible to make the playoffs if you start 0-3. We'll see if he gets it. Like I mentioned, his faults before, I think he'll figure some stuff out. Kenneth Walker needs to have a big game. But more importantly, and the biggest thing, Jamar Chase has to do dirty. Here's the problem with that. Unfortunately, Denny's playing the Joe Burrow owner. So if his first-round pick and Jamar Chase finally has a coming-out party, that probably means Joe Burrow's going to have a coming-out party. And that's why I'm picking Justin here. Denny, I hate to say it. I think you're going 0-3. I think Josh Allen is going to have to be in a shootout with Washington. Washington's offense is higher scoring than we thought. And I think Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow plays, I think Justin wins. If he doesn't play, we'll see. Chase then could go off without it helping Justin. But until they rule Burrow out, I'm going to go with Justin on that one. For our fourth matchups, we got Roman versus Cass. This is my game of the week. I like both of these coaches. I like both of these teams. Roman, I think, is such a strong team right now. Cass is also a really strong team. And for the most part, both of these guys are really, really healthy. Roman set his lineup already. He has Christian Watson coming back into that flex spot. Like I said, Roman's team is insanely deep. He's just replacing good guy with good guy with good guy. Cass's team, on the other hand, it's not a super deep team. He was weak at quarterback, but Jordan Love seems to be way better than people thought, and that helped his quarterback situation. CeeDee Lamb going against Arizona is going to do well. DK, if London, listen, Detroit has a really good offense. The Falcons are going to have to pass. They just can't run the ball 9,000 times. I think London has another decent game. But the big thing is Christian McCaffrey versus that Giants defense. I mentioned it before. I think Cass starts the week with a monster week from Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we're talking 25, maybe 30 points from him. Horse Turd Hair is going to have a rough week, though, going against Cleveland's D, which is legit. I just think Cass's flex spots aren't strong enough at the moment. Madison, Rashid Shaheed, that's not what you want right now to win games when you're going against someone in Matt who has, Christian Watson, Kyron Williams in his flex spots. The quarterbacks, let's just say quarterbacks, Cass wins the quarterback spot because Daniel Jones might get him 5 points. So that's the one chance I think Cass has. But I think with Bijan Robinson, I think they're going to give him the ball more. And I think Joe Mixon might have a decent game against Rennes. I'm going to go Matt in a close one here. I think Cass really needs this win, but I think Matt takes it down because Cass's flex spots aren't necessarily strong enough. And last but not least, we're going to go Ryan versus Jace. Big game. Both these guys lost Ryan won last week, but lost Saquon. And Jace did lose the game last week, but scored a decent amount of points. This is going to be a close matchup. We'll see what Ryan does. Like I said, no Jonathan Taylor, now no Saquon Barkley. He set his lineup. He has DeAndre Swift coming in, which is huge. He still has Joshua Kelly. Jamal Williams got hurt. We'll see what his situation is going into the next week, or if he goes and tries to pick up Tony Jones. The big thing with Ryan is really simple to me. His team is really solid. His quarterbacks, and he has Fields and he has Russell Wilson. I mean, if the Chiefs give up garbage time to Fields, it could help Ryan. And Russell Wilson, another thing with Miami, could get some garbage time. But I don't know if they're going to do that this week. Russell Wilson looks shot, and Fields looks like the worst quarterback in the league. On the flip side, Jace has Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. And Dak's going against Arizona. Jalen Hurts has a tougher matchup against Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's offense has looked pretty good. Maybe he has to get in a shootout. Jace is going to have to do something about Cam Akers. His running backs are by far the worst in the league, but with the Jerome Ford situation, that's huge for him. Unfortunately, Tennessee has a top 5 run defense, so I don't know if that's going to help him this week. I just think Jace's wide receivers are too deep to make up, and I think Jace's quarterbacks are that much better than Ryan. And without Jonathan Taylor, without Saquon, that was going to be the difference for Ryan over Jace. He doesn't have either of those guys. I'm going to give the edge to Jace this week to go 2-1. I think all the matchups this week are going to be really close. But yeah, so those are my predictions. That's a recap. Patty, I'm sorry about Chubb. I love Chubb. He's one of my favorite players. Ryan sucks for Saquon as well. Some injuries this week, and it's only week 2. Let's hopefully week 3 is injury free, and we keep it rolling, guys. Love you guys. You have a good day.